No, most people don't hate their job. Most people don't hate their job. It's that they never chose their job on purpose. Instead, what we've chosen, most of us in corporate America, we've chosen safety. We've chosen this simple opportunity. We've chosen salary, and we just chose what was available. Right? Really, for the most part, we didn't do a lot of choosing at all. We've built a life around a job that we took because somebody offered us money, and now we're restless. We're restless, and we don't know why. So this is what we want to talk about today is why that is and how to fix it. And building up on the last podcast that we've been talking about, just how you sit in corporate America and you being in control. We call this your calling. Right, you'll hear that term a lot, but that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to define this as your calling, not some kind of mystical thing, not emotional, not any of those things, yet directional. That's what we're going to look at, is how do you find direction? So I am Dale Callahan. This is the Company of One podcast. It's not about quitting your job here. It's not about blaming the system either. It's about putting your hands back on the wheel, you being in control. And that's what we're talking about in the Company of One. So, all right, so let's dive in. I've got a couple of points we're going to cover with you today, just to get to calling. Just five points, I guess, is the first is professionals. Most professionals, and I say this as I'm using the word professionals. I don't really like saying that word, but I'm going to say it a lot today because I mean people who have kind of chosen their career, right? Many of us got degrees. We had this intention about doing what we're doing. It wasn't just that we showed up and somebody gave us money. I mean, it kind of was, but a lot of times we went into an engineering, or we went into an accounting, or we went into something, and it led to the things we're doing. So we're operating in a professional. I mean, professional essentially means you're being paid for what you're doing. The people working at McDonald's are professionals too, but it's different. It's a different category. Here's the problem, though, is most of us who are professionals, meaning we have some thought, we have some capabilities. We're pretty smart as well as things go. We have never answered the calling question. We're not operating as victims. We're operating as passive units passing through the universe. Because here's the hard truth. Many of us have optimized our life and our career based upon GPAs. That's where it started, right? We measured grades, your grade point average. How did you do? It kind of comes from there, and we look at resumes. We may have looked at internships or co-ops. And from there, we get an offer, right? And for many of us, it's a college thing. Sometimes it's a high school thing. Sometimes it's exiting the military thing. But we end up with this offer in the corporate world. And we never really stop to ask, what am I built to build? Now, I come at this from a Christian point of view, that we have a purpose. A lot of people believe we have a purpose for all kinds of different reasons. Some people believe the universe has given us a purpose, but that's a whole nother conversation. But let me repeat kind of what we talked about last time. Schools, all the schools, K through 12, even the university, we train for compliance. Where we are corporations, though. Somebody told me the other day, schools train for compliance, corporations train for performance, but I don't think corporations train at all. They demand performance. They need performance. That's why they're hiring. But none of this is training discernment. right? K through 12, it's just, hey, follow the directions. We're all going, you might have a leaning towards math, and so you're going to take more math. You may have a leaning towards sports, so you're going to be more of a sportsy person. You're sometimes in between. These different kind of things that we put you on pre-college tracks and STEM tracks and things like that, oftentimes now in high school. So people end up successful but misaligned, right? That we end up, because I'm saying we're successful, we have jobs, we can do the jobs, we are trained enough to do the work, but it's not really the work we want. It's misaligned, and it creates this misalignment, creates this kind of low grade frustration. Some of you would say high grade frustration, but for most of it's a low grade. It's just there. We feel it. Like having a low grade fever, right? You feel it. You can keep moving. It's not going to knock you totally down. And so therefore it's this kind of constant distraction. And because of this, we have this numb feeling, and what we're looking for is oftentimes we start doing things like chasing certificates, chasing degrees, job hopping without clarity, right? We're just jumping from one thing to another based upon, hey, somebody offered me more money, or this sounds fun, and that's what we're doing. So we've never really kind of dove into the calling question. That's really the point I'm trying to make here, is we've never thought about what we want to do. So now let's think calling. Let's talk about what calling is not. Let me kind of take in the second point here, and I just feel I need to say this because I hear it so often. People will say, you follow your calling or follow your passion, those kind of things. It's dangerous. Depending on who you listen to, it's like that's the way you should do life. Other people say it's a stupid idea. But calling is not the same as follow your passion. I mean, there's some overlap, but it doesn't mean let's just go do whatever you feel like doing, which is kind of the pop culture thing, right? And it gets confusing. So, but when I talk about calling, here's what I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about just what excites you today or what feels good or what's trending. I mean, there's some trends that maybe make sense, like AI and technologies and things like that, but not the ups and down trending. And many of us are driven by what feels good today. And tomorrow we'll wake up and feel different. Calling, though, is when we do talk about calling, it is an intersection of a couple of things. What we are unusually wired to do. Well, you just know people that are wired different ways. Some of us are very hands-on people. We're great about hands-on things, but we hate being at a desk. Some people are great about being outside. Some people are rather be sitting in front of a computer all day long, and that's just their happy space. They're just wired that way. Some people when I used to do software development, there were people that did software, and they could sit down in front of a computer and work for hours at a time, and you would have to, beat them with a stick to get them to eat some food or go to lunch. And then people like me, I was good for like 15-minute spurts because my ADD would kick in, and so that's when we say wiring. It's just a natural affinity for what people are good at. And we all have different things, and it frustrates us, right, if we're in the wrong one. So the calling is an intersection of that, what you're unusually wired to do, and what problems you care to solve. And those are the two big ones, but what are you wired to do? What are your kind of gifts? We might call them passions now, but what are we wired to do? What do we care about? And the third one, what does the market value? Meaning, where will money flow? And a lot of times we look at it, I look at the three intersecting circles, your passion, your skill set, and the market space. But what we're looking at is where these things intersect. Not just follow your passion, but it needs to be following the things that you love to do, you're unusually skilled at, in such a way that somebody will pay you something to do it. Right? That's where follow your passion leaves off, is because it has nothing to do with pay. So if because if you don't have all three of these, you're kind of, if you have something you're very passionate about, nobody wants to pay you for it. It's really a hobby, right? That's fine, but it's not going to put food on the table. So this ties directly into the company of one model, because calling is about your economic direction. So without you figuring out what you're unusually skilled at or unusually wired to do, or maybe where your passion fits into the workplace, you drift. You drift. I remember working with a guy who was worked in insurance companies, was a software developer. He had no passion for insurance. He thought it was boring. And so he would kind of drift from job to job to jobs in the same industry. Right? And it all looked alike, and he was just like, you're going to pay me 10% more, I'll go over here and do that for you. And it didn't have any filter, right, except money. And so calling is not just follow your passion. It has a connection here to the financial elements. So I just want to say that for all of you that say follow your passion is a bad idea, that's not what we're talking about. So third thing here, what's the cost of ignoring your calling? This is the conversation I have over and over and over again, and I cannot stop it. People will usually begin a conversation about one thing, but this is what it really is, because they're feeling this uneasiness, they're feeling this drift, they're feeling this. I just had a conversation just the other day where they said something to me along the line of, I'm really interested, I have a job and the job pays well, and that's great. And I actually kind of like my job. But they had this extreme passion for the thing that was making them just a little bit of money on the side. They didn't know how to grow it, and that was hence the conversation. But you could tell all of their energy and focus was this thing on the side that right now was paying them very little. And they didn't know what to do with it, right? So when you start ignoring your calling, what happens is you start to chase credentials. You chase titles. You chase approval. And think about credentials. Now, they may be a credential given to you by a university, may be a credential given to you by a certification, maybe a credential given to you by the company you work for. A job title is given to you by the company you work for. Approval is by your boss, your peers, those kind of things. Those are things that somebody else does for you. They're, in a sense, passive. You're waiting on a credential. Are you working for it? Yes, but somebody else defined it. You're all of these are you're playing by somebody else's rule book, which feels good. It goes back to last week when we were talking about, if you could get the little merit badges when you were in Scouts, and you get the little things and you know exactly what to do along each step, and that's how school works, that's how K through 12 works, that's how college works. You pass the test, you move to the next course. But here, that's not how it works. There is no rule book. It's your rule book, and we all have this kind of rule book in our head. We haven't discovered what it is, and the calling is a big part of that. When someone does clarify their calling, though, so listen to this: they pursue skill intentionally. Now, notice pursue. Right? There's active. Pursue skill intentionally. They build relationships intentionally. It's not just I network with the people at my company. Most of corporate America, I'm just going to pick on the United States, but most of corporate America, our network is centered around what we do for a living. And that's why many people, when they lose their job for whatever reason, they don't know how to get another one because their network is so centered in the company they worked for and who they served. So I pursue skill intentionally. People who clarify they call it pursue skill intentionally. They build relationships intentionally. They say no more often, and they stop collecting and start creating. And by collecting, I mean they stop collecting credentials. They stop just chasing after every little thing, and they become the creator. And I don't mean artist. I mean we create our own, if you will, intellectual property. It doesn't mean going to an attorney or getting a patent. It might, but we are creating the stuff that we know how to do, and it is intellectual property. It is our own, for lack of a better word, our own brand. We create enough so that we get known for doing something because we're passionate about it and we have found a market connection to it. And all those things start to fill together. So calling starts to simplify. When you get... the problem is in the whole calling thing, because the calling is all of this together, but it has to do with passion. It has to do with skill set. It has to do with what the market says. I can teach you a skill set. I can find out how to connect you to the market. I cannot insert passion. I cannot teach you passion. It's going back to that statement. I said it's what you're uniquely wired to do. Uniquely wired to do, and we're all weird. If you think about some of the most successful people you know, they're unique in what they do and they're passionate about what they do. You don't find many successful people without passion. And they don't become passionate just because they're successful and make money at it. It goes the other way around. You have to first have some love for what you're doing, for the purpose, for the activity, whatever it is. So it simplifies. When you get this correct, it simplifies all of your decisions. Actually, when you just start moving, it's not even about getting it correct. When you start moving in that direction, all your decisions become, I don't want to do that because that's not where I really care to be. I talked to a guy the other day, a software developer, and he was telling me, about all the different job offers he was getting and the opportunities he was getting to develop software. All this is great. And then he said, I really don't like being in front of the computer all the time. Whoa, wait a minute. You just said a critical thing. Now, can we write software without being in front of a computer? Maybe. I don't think we're there yet, but maybe we will get there. I don't know, but he has built everything around his skill set, right? This was a skill set. He knows how to do it, enjoys it, but that's not a passion. And part of the passion element is I don't like sitting behind a desk all day. Well, that changes the game. That's an important element, right? So now he's choosing between these different decisions, and really the decision should be, I need to be finding something else that pays me well, that does not have me sitting behind a desk. That's part of his calling. He's uniquely wired to not sit behind a desk every day. So without this, every option starts to look attractive. Like I just said, all these different options this guy had was attractive. And with it, many options start to look distracting. I just tell you, that's when I first got to that point where because we all do it. When I first got to that point where, hey, all these because I'm one of these people, and you are probably one too, that you have a lot of different interests, and you can get interested in a lot of different things, and you could geek out on all kinds of crazy job opportunities, from the most technical thing to the most hands-on, blue collar type of thing. But When you get your calling straight, you start realizing that's cool, but that's a distraction. And I can still think it's cool, but I can realize also it's not a fit for me for so many reasons. So my friend with this software development, another software development gig, it has him sitting in front of a computer writing code all day, is not for him. And he should start to, hopefully by now, he's starting to realize this is not a fit. I can take my software skills and do something else with it, but I don't want to sit in front of the computer and write the code. So he hopefully is beginning to see these things are distracting him away. They look easy, and it goes back to right to where I started. There's safety, there's constant opportunity. People are constantly offering him this stuff. There's salary, and it's available. Or because it's hard to get offered something. It's easy to get offered more money or more gigs to do software or whatever it is you've been doing. But when you want to grow into something else, well, you don't have any traction there. So it takes some effort to change that gear, and that's where he is. So, but the cost of ignoring this, the cost of ignoring your calling, it's a sense sort of ADD. Everything looks attractive, and you can't make a good decision. And when you do make a decision, you kind of end up in this low-grade fever again. You might feel like getting a new job, right? That sounds really cool, and you end up, it's just another job. Told that recently, too. So, number 4. All right, so now let's get practical. Let's kind of get down to brass tacks. How do you clarify your calling? So what do we want to do here? How do I get it? And here's the trick we always use is we take a notepad, like a notepad type of thing, sheet of paper, and put on it step 1. And step 1, you just start writing. Now, I personally like using pen and paper. I think there's something magic. I think your hand-eye coordination with your brain works better. Whiteboard, some people type this on a computer, but the way you start doing your calling is you start just writing down answers to some of these questions. There's no magic to this. It's just, what do you love to do? And you just start writing, what do you love to do? Okay, and then you may come up with 2 or 3 things because our brains get a little stuck. And then, so let me throw some things out here that may help you. When do people consistently come to you for help? What is that about? What are they asking you? That's a clue. Write that down. It doesn't, by the way, mean that you love this necessarily, but this is a list of ideas. What about problems that energize you instead of drain you? You ever worked on these problems and you could do this all day long, and I gave you the simplest task and it just drains the energy out of you? What are those things that you could do all day long without eating and sleeping almost? Where have you already created measurable value? If you had to earn money independently for 6 months, what would you build? Or maybe even the question is, if you didn't have to earn money, if you won the lottery, right, and the big lottery, and you didn't have to work, what would you be doing? And trust me, most people are not going to be sitting on the beach for the rest of their life or playing golf for the rest of their life. I've seen that model too many times, and we don't enjoy it. Humans don't. Humans are built to work, but they're also built to love their work, hopefully. So what would you be doing? So on the first sheet of paper, you just want to write these kind of things down. What are these things? These are clues to your calling. And you should end up with a notepad or a list of 20 or 30 different things. And it's everything from the things that you just really love. And here's a couple of other clues. Where are you spending your money? When you go to Amazon, what are you looking for? When you go to stores, what stores are you going to? Because these are things that you spend money on. It's probably what you're passionate about. What YouTube channels do you watch? I mean, All these kind of things, right? What is it you are passionate about? So what we're looking for here is alignment, because all of these things are kind of unique to you. And if you look at your list, if you write that list down and you say, well, it's kind of a weird combination of things. And for most of us, it is. It's a weird combination of things. My combination, there may be some overlap to yours, but they're also weird. It's a weird mixture. So that's part of what makes you you, right? Your different interests, your different hobbies, skill sets, things you like to buy, and things like that. And this is not discovered in isolation. So one good way of getting things on this list is asking your spouse, asking your friends, because often I'm finding, just like my software developer friend, we're blinded to this guy. Everything looks like a software development issue because that's what he knows and does. And so if he started working on this list, that's what he would probably write. But after questioning him for a few minutes and just discussing it, the list was much longer and had things that had nothing to do with software. So it's kind of revealed in action, if you will. So this is the step one of your calling. So just briefly, I'll tell you the other steps, but this is the key step. The step one, what we get people to do is this first step, and then second, we will get them to create a second sheet of paper and start looking back at the first set and say, how can I make money doing this? Not a job, just what would somebody pay me for just for the day? What problems could I solve? And looking at your list. So if you like gardening, you're a gardener and you just love to spend hours in your yard gardening, people would pay you to show them how to do gardening. People would pay you to plan out their garden. People would pay you to come and do it for them. So there's, for each thing that's on your love list, on your passion list, if you will, is you're going to find on your on the second list. We always like to call the first one your love list, things you really kind of love doing. The second one is more of a leverage. How can you leverage that to get something out of it? So that's where we want to go. But this is the calling. We're not going to go any further than that right now. What happens though is if you start to do this, I will promise you, if you start to do this and you spend just a few minutes writing it down and then a few more minutes more thinking about money, and you might come back to it, you might set it aside and keep adding to it for a day or two, you're going to get excited. And you're also going to get nervous and a little scared because there's unknown stuff on this list now. There's things I don't know about. There's things I don't know how to do. I don't know the way to get from point A, where I am, to point Z over here, or wherever that may be. But also excited because there's this possibility. There's this weird dynamic that goes on as you're stepping into new territory. Happens every time people get pumped up and excited about this. Now we'll talk more about what to do with this, but we'll get there later. We don't have time today. So number 5, though. Why does this matter before income growth? So it's usually when people are contacting me and people I work with, it's not necessarily about income growth, except when I'm working for businesses, then it's usually about income growth. But when I'm working with individuals and the corporations, that's important. We all want more income. But it's kind of a secondary issue because they're usually making enough money. Here's the issue: you can't take control of your income if you don't know what direction you're building toward. Because the problem is there's infinite number of directions you can go. Even inside, many of your companies are so big, there's so many different things you could do and grow into. You've got to choose. There's so many job opportunities, so many degrees. Let's leave the degrees out of it. But there's so much going on in the world that me and you don't even know about. I mean, you think about everything that happens, everything that you see happens around you, somebody's doing it. The most simple thing, from picking up the trash, there's a company that does that. There's probably software and logistics that do that. And it seems, and how much other stuff is involved in moving trash around, this thing that we just do, right? We take it to the road and it magically disappears. So there's a whole industry there. And that's true of every single minute thing. There's industries behind industries behind industries, and so many opportunities we don't even know about. And it would be overwhelming to think about them. So it's hard to take control of your income if you don't know what direction you're going to go. The magic of doing this list is you start thinking possibilities. The third part we'll get to later is exploring what the real options are. But if you don't know what direction you're building toward, you very, very often, get promoted into something you don't want. And this is the promotion trap. I see so often people get promoted. One guy told me he became a corporate executive, and he was like, I finally hit my dream job. He said, I didn't realize the kind of dream it was a nightmare. He hated it. He hated the job. Not the being an executive, but just being an executive in that company, in that structure, he hated it. And you see this all the time. You see people get promoted and they were pretty happy. They get promoted. They're happy about the money. They're happy about the title. It feels good, but they don't really like the work all the time. We also see people building a side business that they abandon, or more likely they build a side business. Oh, they changed their mind. They build another side business. Oh, I changed my mind again. I built another. We see this pattern over and over again because they don't have any filter. They're just chasing, hey, Sally built this, and so I can do it too. Or they chase a certificate. This is one I'm seeing a whole lot now. They chase a certificate they don't really need and they don't really use, but it feels really good. It's that merit badge. It feels really good. Calling sounds like a soft skill. It sounds soft. It sounds fuzzy, but it's anything but. This is strategic guidance. Strategic guidance. If you're the CEO of a company, which you are, you're the CEO of you. If you're the CEO of a company, you sit there with your board, which is also you, and you decide the direction the company is going. Strategic. So we can look at any company right now. We can look at Tesla right now. Maybe Tesla, their board and Elon Musk are sitting there thinking, you know what? The future is not in electric vehicles. We're going to change the direction. I don't know what decisions they're making, but that's, or maybe they just wired. They've discovered something else and they're really on fire about something else. And so maybe they're going to spin off a different company, which we know they do that all the time. So it becomes very, very strategic for what you do. And when I've seen people get their calling straight, they become very strategic and very clear about how to get from point A to point Z. Because now there's a defined path to do that. It's the compass that you use before accelerating, right? Direction before movement. So critical. As a matter of fact, I'll just tell you right now. So let me throw this thing in before we close up. I'm seeing this pattern that we're talking about. I have seen it for years. It's taking a little bit different shape now, but basically, I'm going to call it smart people drifting. People who know better, that are just drifting. They're successful but unsettled. It seems worse than it used to be. COVID and things like that may have made it worse. What I am doing right now is I am testing a 90-day reset where we define clarity and direction, identify leverage, build action rhythms to actually get people from the point of, hey, let me think through where am I going, and let me get clear, actionable steps to get there. Let's map out a path and let's build in some accountability so I can actually get some real movement. That's what we've been doing in a different format for years. And so I'm going to be doing this this is not therapy, by the way. I'm not a therapist. It's not motivation. It's execution. This is not Tony Robbins, and it's not a psychologist. It's actually execution. If that's something you're interested in, I'd love to have a conversation with you, see if, hey, this feels warm and fuzzy to you or not. So, all right, let's close out though. So let me, just bring home a couple of thoughts. Most of us didn't lose our calling. Most of us are just buried under performance. It's not a matter, it's that most of us have never stopped and made the decision, never stopped to decide what we really want to be doing and how can we get from point A to point B. So my invitation to you is to stop drifting. It sounds kind of cold when I say that. Stop drifting. But that's what we're doing. I've done it. I see it. Stop drifting. And start building something that you really want to do. So this is the Company of One podcast. And here, again, we are not about you quitting your job. We're not even about blaming the boss or blaming the system. It's about putting you back in control. And we want to help you do that today.